Hello, this is Monica Reinagel, and you're listening to the Nutrition Diva podcast. Welcome. This episode is supported by Snap Kitchen. Snap Kitchen makes healthy eating easy. Their team of chefs and dietitians develops meals with well-sourced, high-quality ingredients. There's no gluten, hormones, or artificial preservatives. And their fresh, delicious, balanced meals come right to your door and require zero cooking. Just heat and enjoy. It's fun food with serious standards. Get started at snapkitchen.com and use the promo code DIVA to save $20 a week on your first 4 weeks. Today's episode topic was proposed by Lisa, who called in on the Nutrition Diva listener line.
Hey, Monica. I have a question about whether too much fiber causes nutrient deficiencies. I read that an excessive amount of fiber binds with minerals including calcium, magnesium, zinc, and iron, preventing them from being absorbed by the body. Is there validity to these claims? And if so, how much fiber will need to be consumed on a daily basis for this problem to take effect? In other words, what do we consider to be excessive fiber? Thanks for all that you do, Lisa.
This is a really interesting question, so thanks for calling in, Lisa. The recommended daily allowance for fiber is about 30 grams per day. Now, the average intake in the U.S. is somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 grams per day, so the typical American would need to double their fiber intake just to meet the recommended amount. But is the recommended amount of fiber too low? The RDA for fiber was set decades ago, and it was based on research showing that fiber was beneficial for digestive health, weight management, and may also play a role in moderating cholesterol levels. And here's how all of that works. Fiber from foods absorbs water and takes up a lot of space, and this helps with weight management by filling up the stomach and making us feel more full on fewer calories. Fiber also binds to certain food elements such as cholesterol, and that means that as the food moves through the small intestine, less of the cholesterol is absorbed into the bloodstream. And then as it continues through the digestive tract, fiber also helps move waste matter through the large intestine, and that prevents constipation and reduces our risk of colon cancer. However, in more recent years, we've become aware of another important way that fiber supports our health, and that is by supporting the health of our gut bacteria. The greater the amount and variety of plant fiber that we include in our diet, the more varied and robust that population of beneficial bacteria becomes. Studies have shown that increasing fiber to 50 grams a day positively changes the composition of the gut microbiome in a surprisingly short period of time. But Lisa raises an interesting question. Is there any danger of consuming too much fiber? Well, the Institute of Medicine hasn't set an upper limit on fiber, meaning that there's no amount at which it's considered toxic. Now, that doesn't mean that an excess of fiber couldn't make you pretty uncomfortable, though. People who quickly and drastically increase their fiber intake sometimes experience gas, cramping, and bloating. And taking very large amounts of fiber supplements can also cause intestinal blockages, especially if you don't take them with enough water. Now, here's an interesting little sidebar. If you suffer from constipation, you may have tried increasing your fiber intake, and if it doesn't help, it may be that your constipation is not due to inadequate fiber, and in that case, too much fiber may actually be making the problem worse. One study of patients with chronic constipation found that many of them were taking quite high amounts of fiber to no avail, and in this situation, they found that reducing the amount of fiber in the diet often led to improvement in symptoms. But getting back to our main topic, could excessive fiber also negatively affect nutrient absorption? Well, we're going to get into that after these messages from our sponsor. Support for this podcast comes from Pete and Jerry's Organic Eggs. Pete and Jerry's has done one thing for generations: produce eggs that you can be proud to serve to your family. Their small, single family-owned farms around the country take pride in raising hens simply and providing healthy, organic, free-range eggs. You can learn more about their farms and the families that work there by visiting PeteandJerry's.com. And you can also find delicious hand-picked recipes to find the best way to prepare their free-range organic eggs. They've got sweet, savory, even keto-friendly options. There's something for everyone. Pete and Jerry's believes in small-scale, humane, organic farming because it's the right way to farm, and they want you to believe in what you buy. The next time you're in the egg aisle, find Pete and Jerry's organic eggs and check out PeteandJerry's.com for recipes and more. That's Pete and Jerry's, GERRYS.com. And today's episode was also supported by Undeniably Dairy. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. faces hunger, and that number goes up during the summer months when children lose access to school meal programs. Undeniably Dairy and America's dairy farmers have been passionate about providing food to families for a long time, and this summer they're building on dairy's commitment to nourishing communities by partnering with Feeding America to fight child hunger. Dairy is an accessible, affordable source of many essential nutrients in a time when eating healthy only seems to get more complicated. Plus, 95% of dairy farms are family-owned, and most milk is made less than a 2-hour drive from where it's sold. So when you buy cheese, yogurt, or milk, you're supporting dairy farm families near you. Help get food to the families who need it. Go to giveagallon.com to donate to a food bank in your community. And then stay tuned at the end of today's episode to hear more about this important initiative from a very special guest, boxer Laila Ali. And now back to Lisa's question. Could a high-fiber diet negatively impact nutrient absorption? The idea is that fiber could bind to minerals in a way that prevents their absorption in the small intestine, and some studies have confirmed that increasing dietary fiber resulted in more calcium being excreted in the stool. But this may not be the best way to assess the impact. Another study found that while subjects eating more fiber lost more calcium in their stool, they still showed net gains in calcium, magnesium, iron, and zinc levels. And this is probably because the higher fiber diet was also a lot higher in these nutrients. So even though fiber may trap some of the minerals in foods, because these foods are more nutritious to begin with, you are likely to come out ahead nutritionally. And that's before we take into account all of the other positive effects of a higher fiber diet. But keep in mind that this does assume that you're getting your fiber from whole foods and not just supplements, which wouldn't offer those same nutritional advantages. So taking all of this into consideration, it would appear to be safe and beneficial for most people to eat as much as 50 to 60 grams of fiber per day. Now, if you're currently only taking in the typical 15 grams a day, that may seem like a pretty big lift, but you could still get a lot of benefit just from working your way up to the recommended 30 grams a day. Your best sources would be whole, nutrient-dense foods such as legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, fruits, and vegetables, and the greater the variety, the better. Remember to increase your fiber gradually to give your gut and its inhabitants time to adjust, and also be sure to drink plenty of fluids. And if gas and bloating are still an issue, you might want to do a little sleuthing to discover which particular types of fiber your belly can most comfortably handle. And for that, there's no better guide than the book The Bloated Belly Whisperer by Tamara Freumann. You might remember I had Tamara on my podcast not too long ago to talk about this topic. If you have a question for me that you'd like me to answer on the podcast, you too can call the Nutrition Diva listener line. It's at 443-961-6206, and I would love to hear from you. And now, let me introduce you to my guest, Laila Ali. Laila has a very interesting story and a very important message.
Laila Ali has overcome many challenges in her life. And the one she's tackling right now is finding healthy foods her kids will love.
They eat what I prepare, but at the same time, of course, they fight back. Sometimes they're like, I don't want that. So I'm like, okay, it'll make my life a lot easier if I figure out some go-to recipes where I can give them the foods that they like, but make them healthier. And a lot of times you have to sneak them. I do a lot of sneaking of vegetables into my meals. I'm still going to use that amazing cheese because, that's what makes mac and cheese. But I'm going to use some quinoa pasta, instead of the white flour pasta or things like that. And I also will, take some zucchini and puree it. Of course, I take the skin off because, if my kids see anything green, they're like, they detect that. So you take the skin off and, you make a puree and it goes in with the milk. I am Laila Ali. I am a former world boxing champion. I'm also a cookbook author, and I am an advocate for healthy living.
While she may have had a more famous teacher than most, Laila's was like a lot of American families. They worked hard to instill the importance of a healthy lifestyle. Her parents didn't just teach her the value of taking care of herself. They also showed her how important it was to take care of others.
Growing up, I watched my father give back to people in so many different ways. It literally was like something he did on a daily basis. I remember just simply jumping in the car with him and driving down the boulevard, and we'd just be going to a diner, and he would a lot of times would just pull over on the side of the road and hand out money to homeless people. He loved to just put smiles on people's faces everywhere we went. My dad would stop and, sign autographs and do magic tricks, and we'd be stuck for like 2 hours, and I couldn't stand it as a kid. As I got older, I was like, wow, he really dedicated a lot of his time and energy to giving back to people.
And one of the causes that matters most to her is the fight to end childhood hunger.
As a mom, I can't imagine my kids being hungry. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. faces hunger, and that number rises during the summer months when many of the kids lose access to school lunch programs. So unfortunately, they aren't getting the same quality of meals at home as they are at school. Some of those kids don't even get a nice balanced meal until they get to school. So when they're out for the summer, they lose access to that. And, America's dairy farmers have always been committed to nourishing communities. So for National Dairy Month, they're building on that commitment to help fight childhood hunger. I'm encouraging people to go to giveagallon.com and donate so kids in your community have access to high quality nutrition and milk. By donating to this cause, you're going to make sure that you are supporting Feeding America and the dairy farmers so that they can tackle the issue of childhood hunger. When you think of simply donating $1, if 1 million people donate $1, that's $1 million, We are more powerful in numbers. We've seen that over and over again in different situations. And at the end of the day, when food banks have the money and the resources they need, they're better able to provide local families with nutrition that they need.
And you can support this initiative by going to giveagallon.com and donating today.
The Nutrition Diva Show is researched and written by me, Monica Reinagel, and edited by Karen Hertzberg. Our producer is Nathan Sems. Our advertising manager is Michelle Margulis. Morgan Ratner is in charge of audience development. And we also want to thank Emily Miller and Michaela Prell for their help. And thanks to all of our sponsors, but most of all, thanks to you for listening. You'll find a transcript of today's show along with the complete Nutrition Diva archives at quickanddirtytips.com. And you'll find me on Facebook, Twitter, and at nutritionovereasy.com. I hope you have a great week. Take care.